Hello, and thanks again for joining me. And this episode is all about the power of your perception. And we're talking about perception through the lens of your language. I touched on this a couple of broadcasts ago, and I mentioned it to get you thinking. I want you to start thinking about that term I utilized, the language. Gauge. Gauging your gauging your world through the use of language. Because it's so interesting when you think about it. If you allow yourself to wander for a moment, wander to think about things a bit differently and notice that we use language to gauge or measure our reality. But it's not just a measurement in the way of, well, using a tape measure. It's a little bit larger than that, actually. So yes, I could say my teacup is red. I'm measuring that. I'm using the word teacup to label my cup. You might call it a mug. And look, what a mug. I've gauged that perhaps differently to someone else. And that alters a reality, doesn't it? Red, well, red to me is not what red is to you. And yet there's an agreement on what red is, and so we all tend to refer to colours to be the same. But what about colourblind people? What do they see? And just because we who are the seers of colour, if we see colour, does that mean the label that we give it means that? Again, it's a consensus. It's a vote. And at the same time, other than language being a label, so I'm labeling my reality, I'm labeling my existence, I am giving it a name that we can all relate to. That's one purpose, because if we can relate, then we can communicate. We can meet on common ground. Why would you want to know how to use language this way? Or even be aware of how to use language this way? Because really, I think more than anything, this particular broadcast, other than being about language and how we view reality, really is about awareness. I can tie most of the things that I speak of and to awareness. So when we're looking at language from that perspective of being simply a label, it's just one dimension of it. The other part of using language with purpose is beginning to understand that your language creates realities. I know that's deep. Don't go too deep yet. I hear you saying from the inside of those echoes of the mind's chambers. Yet, it's true. Language creates realities. You see, as I am communicating with you now, and I mentioned that in the last few weeks, I've started to notice some changes every time I go to the gym. Because when I first arrived there on Lower Northeast Road at that particular gym, and I saw that purple sign with that particular font and the logo with the little man on it, and parked my car in the same spot, which is right near the road, next to the curb, and I reversed in. So my nose was facing out, which means I had to do a left turn to get onto the main road, moving towards the northeast. And as I calmly, comfortably moved towards that door, free of tension in my body, with great posture, breathing deeply, and I was wearing my black shoes with the white soles, double knotted laces, a blue Nike singlet, and a grey, this is not branded content, whoops, I'm not getting any money from Nike, so just to be clear, and the same brand of grey track pants. As I moved in that manner and the sun was overhead, I began to notice something about the pavement that I never had before. You see, there were cracks and crazes down there. As I looked down, as I looked back up, and noticed many individuals in front of me, both males and females, a number of a total count of 12, and I could divide this in the middle to create an equal amount of each of the sexes. It was as if as I walked forward, the group split in half in an equal number. And I started to wonder as I scratched my head, something really interesting is happening now. So as you've tuned into that, there are many pictures, many images, many different associations that are occurring inside, are they not? We make pictures and movies in our head. I would have discussed this before. We do we not? And just by virtue of me beginning to describe a scene, even if it's imagined, the clearer I get on that picture, even if it's imagined, the clearer you may or may not begin to become on that imagery. So we paint pictures with our words. We are creators of realities, at least in each other's minds, if not just our own. Storytellers are brilliant at this. When you read a story, they're creating a reality, are they not? Of course, watching a movie, but that takes the fun out at times. And I love film, and yet your imagination cannot run as wild. And it's a beautiful thing to imagine, is it not? Having power with your words. Creating realities easily and naturally for you and others, for a mutual benefit. So the art of painting pictures with one word is the other aspect of language. Not just labeling our existence, but also creating it simultaneously, synergistically. And if we do that playfully, we're going to have a lot of fun. I want you to start to think, I'm going to leave you with a question. I want you to start to think of how you could just change your language ever so slightly to alter both you and maybe a loved one's reality for the better. make it a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter, a little bit more harmonious, a little bit more joyful. I'm not asking you to ignore what's real. I'm just inviting you to reinvent the wheel. If you've got any questions about this, please let me know. I'd love to engage. And this is Matthew Tweedy. Matthew Tweedy Hypnosis, Facebook, website, Instagram, The Power of Practice podcast. Subscribe, rate and review. That was easy for me to say. I guess I wanted to necessitate the need to say it again to allow you to go ahead and do that now. The Power of Practice podcast. Subscribe, rate and review. It would really help a lot. It would help people help themselves to create the reality they desire. So everyone wins. Ciao for now. Keep growing and evolving.